Hello and welcome back to another episode of cedh Bling Builds. Today we're going to feature Najeela the Blade Blossom. Um, this might be a little bit longer of a video. I'm trying a different format today. I'm going to uh, discuss maybe budget alternatives to a cedh build. Um, I'm going to showcase a handful of cards that you would normally see in Najeela, but in my opinion have been power crept over the years. And yeah, so let's get into the deck. So Najeela, she's a Wooburg commander, a human warrior that aims to do one thing and one thing really well, and that is to infinitely beat your opponents in their dirty, dirty mouths. Of course. Um, uh, So you might ask yourself, like, oh, well, hey, Tuna, like, why not Winota, a joiner of forces? Uh, Winota puts up more results and seems to be overall a better deck. Well, let's discuss Winota then for just a moment. Now, the biggest secret about Winota is, come here, come closer. Look. Winota is a luck sack deck. That's right. Winota luck sacks into humans off the top of her deck. And if you know anything about me, I have awful luck when it comes to fucking Vanguard drive checking Yu-Gi-Oh! Light Sworning into the pieces that I need. Not only that, I'll have like 3 Winota triggers on the stack and whiff every single one of them. And I know the Winota mains are going to be like, oh, that's not true. There's perfect ratio of non-humans to humans. Shut up. It's a luck sack deck, and you know it. And there's no guarantee that you're going to even luck sack into the human stacks piece that you need right then and there. Whereas Najeela, she's in Wooburg, she's in green, she's in black. I get whatever I want, whenever I want. So that's the difference. And so this channel will not be featuring a Winota deck anytime soon. I'm not going to cedh bling myself into narrow pieces that I just don't care enough about. So there's the story with that. So let's get into Najeela. We're going to start things off with some engines that didn't make the cut. And so we have Najeela, OG foil, not the etch foil. Let's be honest, that's the Dollar Tree version. Sword of Feast and Famine did not make the cut. It did not make the cut. It's a little outdated of a combo piece for essentially 5 CMC. It gives you a single lands untap trigger. And so, whereas like other pieces like a Derevi, or we'll get into it in a second, they have multiple untapped triggers. So, sword, not good enough for the deck. And I think out of reach for a casual build. Now, even if a casual player did have their Sword of Feast and Famine, not worth it. They're probably in basics. And so you have to be able to tap all 5 colors to really get that Sword of Feast and Famine value. I mean, it's a value card, but you know what I mean. A Fabro Elder. In Najeela, it's automatically should be a 3 color mana dork. And obviously the combo for infinite Uber beats is when you present all 5 colors on the board. Now, Najeela over the years has gotten a ton of black support, but oddly enough, surprising enough, not too much blue. Not too much blue. I could feature this right now. So if a nice alternative for blue permanent would be like a Sea Dasher Octopus. It's a blue permanent that fulfills like what Fabro Elder is looking for. And you could just mutate this onto a warrior. They're not human warriors, they're just warriors. So Sea Dasher is a nice budget alternative. Fabro is a nice budget alternative. But the fact that it's a dork that comes into, it's dork win con, right? I don't have No way to give it haste. I'm not going to put a way to give it haste to make the combo online. It's just not worth my time. So Fabro doesn't make the cut, but is a nice budget alternative to find infinite beats. Just gotta find a black permanent and blue permanent and just get that online. Plarg, Teen of Chaos. No one cares about Plarg. Who we do care about is the backside, Augusta, Dean of Order, where pretty much if you have your dorks, it could lead to infinite beats. It doesn't make the cut. Augusta doesn't make the cut. One, because there's no way to special this onto the board because it is Plarg's backside. Pause. And there are not enough one-drop mana dorks that produce more than one color, right? You can't count Deathrite because that's a finite amount of Wooburg, and that's it. There's a bunch of green that produce green, but maybe it's another card that's a budget alternative because there are a ton of like 2-drop mana dorks that do produce Wooburg. Maybe between Fabro and Augusta, a casual Najeela player should maybe stay away from like a anime fantasy warrior tribal and just focus on like a dork deck, in my opinion. What do I know? A way we can help get this combo online is by using Cryptolithrite to turn our dorks, not our dorks, or potentially our warrior tokens into dorks, into birds of paradise. So yeah, budget alternatives. And so that concludes cards that didn't make the cut. Let's get into the deck. We have Derevi, Imperial Tactician. Derevi, unlike Sword and Fist Famine, does have multiple untapped triggers, right? When you swing your dudes in different directions, or so maybe your 3 lands could then untap, and then make your Wooburg for another Najeela swing. And Nature's Will achieves the same thing, even though the double green devotion is asking a little bit too much, but not a big deal. Druid's Repository is good. It's good enough for the deck, in my opinion. The only problem is you have to remember the ruling on a Druid's Repository. Only the initial attackers will produce those are charge counters. The warriors that are entering, they could beat your opponents in the face as much as they can, but they're not going to produce a charge counter. Just the initial creatures that were declared as attackers. That's just how Repository works. But still, 5 is not, 5 minimum beaters. It's not a lot in Najeela. And then Thassa's Oracle, because it's Thassa's Oracle, is very easy. Thassa's Oracle, Demonic Consultation, is just too easy of a combo. I don't know what's going to happen once they hit this. Who knows? And then, of course, we have Tainted Pact, a really nice tutor. Just puts a heavy restriction on your mana base. That's the only problem. So again, I know that they reprinted this card. So it's easier for like a casual to they just rip it in their draft or something stupid, but it's still a very difficult card to play around. Grim Hireling, I put it to the top in my win conditions package, but it's not 100% a win condition. You could run out of you could take an opponent off the board if you're ideally sending your dudes in different directions. And then not be able to produce enough of those treasure to infinitely Wooburg your way into beats. But Grim Hireling is still good enough, and his second ability is what sells me. It's just shitty creature removal, and so you can't really ask for more, right? I probably would have still put him in the deck even if he just had only the first ability. I put this at the top, not a win condition, but just an incredible utility. Skull Clamp absolutely earned its keep in the deck. Just something to do with like warriors if you kind of run out of steam, right? And there are going to be moments when that happens, when you just run out of steam. your top decks are a little bit stale, right? This is the problem of creature decks. You don't have like the cheap cantrips. The instant sorcerer is really just power the deck. Not power the deck, but just to accelerate the deck. And so Skull Clamp helps remedy that. And then getting into our creatures, we have a Bob. Termworn Bob is always nice. Can't argue with that. And so, and it kind of goes with what this particular incarnation of Najeela wants to do. It kind of wants to just draw and filter through the deck, get my pieces as soon as possible. So Bob does that. Mind Blade Render does that. And even if an opponent's warrior gets in, I'll still go plus. So maybe I play the Winota deck. Maybe the Winota deck is at the table, right? Luck sacking into warrior humans. And sometimes there are goblin warriors, human warriors. So no, Winota is a warrior. So yeah, there's Mind Blade Render. Oh, don't be cute. I know Winota is a warrior, and it could be put into this deck. And trust me, I tried it. I proxied it up, right? A little index card, Winota. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. I hate to quote the Winota mains. The warrior, the human ratio is just not worth. But here's our human, a Grim Flare. You don't see this in too many lists, but it's great. It's like low key, like a Sensei's top, kind of, and it just synergizes well with Najeela, and it helps filter through the deck, right? I could filter the top deck for Kaka and keep the good stuff on the top. Or if I have a little bit of recursion, it's good. It's worth, especially if you want to filter through the deck. Grimflare, I go back and forth between like Dockside and Grimflare in this build, but there's just like a Dockside for value, and the deck is usually faster, right? It's faster than the Dockside could produce the treasure, if that makes sense. So Grimflare stays, Dockside's out. Timna, the Weaver, again, when you're sending your dudes in different directions so early in the game, you're going to be like drawing so many cards, you're probably going to be discarding to hand size. In all honesty, it's amazing card. Edric Spymaster. I know it gives your opponent the chance to go plus, but your plus outweighs Edric's minus, right? You're going to be drawing like 5, 7, 8 cards, while the opponent's going to get like 1, and it's most unlikely going to turn the tide of the game. But if that's not your bag of treats, then you have a Toski, Bearer of Secrets. Amazing card. And then we have a Florian, Flow Rider. Baby, never. Remember that? Were you guys alive when that song came out? Flow Rider, new edition, is an incredible card. No one's talking about him, and I don't know why. The only people I know how good this card is, and the only decks that he's good in are Najeela and like a Turbo Nause, Turbo Farm. And maybe you're not going to hear too much about Florian. Not until like Scrubs start building like their stupid vampire tribal decks in a couple of days. But Florian is like a soft dig through time. I mean, in Najeela, he's filtering through like 10, 15 cards. He will get what you're looking for. Absolutely. And then we're going to get into utility creatures. What makes utility creatures really spicy in Najeela is the fact that we're in blue and green, which means that we have a Neoform. And so you could turn your dork into, you could really turn, Neoform turns anybody into anything, right? And so you could turn a dork into a Drath Magistrate at just the right time, and a Gilded Drake. Oh my God. There's nothing more devastating than turning a dork into a Gilded Drake at right when you need to. Just special summon Gilded Drake from the deck is really, really gross. And then Eternal Witness. And then another neat card, Trader Fang. I didn't care too much about this when I saw it in other lists, but I tried it out, and Trader Fang is gross. He's like kind of like a token doubler. But what puts him over the edge is the fact that he has Forest Walk, so he really punishes like the stompy, scrubby, mono green guy or whatever, right? And then his third ability is again shit creature removal, but it's good enough. It's good enough. So there's that. If Najeela's swarming the board, where her 2 turn into 4 and 4 turn into 8, and then the Chatterfang just sees that's a lot of squirrels. And then we have a Ranger, Captain of Eos, finally folded out. Devotion to White's a little extensive in this deck, right? It's a little heavy. Double White's always rough, but he's worth. His ETB is amazing, and just the fact that you shut your opponents off when it's time to go off is very devastating. And so let's go into his buddies. We have a Ragavan, Nimble Pilfer, Asper Sentinel. And then our dorks, we have Birds of Paradise, Deathrite Shaman, Noble Hierarch, Noble Hierarch, Elves of Deep Shadow, Amy. I call it Amy because she looks like my homegirl. Arbor Elf. And then we're going to go into our tutors. We have a Vampiric Tutor, a Mystical Tutor, no Enlightened Tutor in the deck. I don't care enough about like the enchantment win cons or skull clamp. It's not that important, right? Most of the time, Najeela, like especially these cedh variants of Najeela, it's just a Thassa Oracle. It's a Najeela deck in disguise. Worldly Tutor, Gamble, arguably the worst card in existence. Imperial Seal, Demonic Tutor, Diabolic Intent, which is great. Turn your warrior into whatever you want. Neoform and Eldritch Revolution, amazing cards. Turn whoever into whatever. It's a morph deck. This is low-key a morph deck. And then Nexus Revival, a little bit of recursion. And so our counter package. We have, starting things off with the soft counters, we have Silence, which in many regards is a way stronger than any counter in the game. Except for that counter Silence, right? Am I right? So you have Silence, Veil of Summer, Deflect and Swat. And then for our hard counters, we have Dispel, Witch Spell, Miscast, and Swan Song. Now, with the exception of a Swan Song, these get worse over time, especially in this meta. The instant sorcery removal is not as important as like the enchantment artifact, the stacks piece removal. So that's something to consider, but it is only 2 cards. Mental Misstep, Fierce Guardianship, Pact Negation, and a Force of Will. And then our removal package, we have a Nature's Claim, a Braid, Resculpt, Abrupt Decay, and Assassin's Trophy. Of course, I like this Abrupt Decay for its matching Seb McKinnon art. It'll always be that way. Fire Covenant, which is amazing. I don't care about life in this deck, especially because like Najeela X Uberg swings like give the Warriors a lifelink for no reason whatsoever. But Fire Covenant it's one-sided creature removal at instant speed. Just when your opponents start to flood the board with their stupid creatures, you could just like wash it all away, and then Najeela just comes in and it's just huge. Um, Funny story about Fire Covenant. For a long time, my decks did not have Fire Covenant in the deck. I used to have a hand painted Fire Covenant, and then I knew that this was coming out, so I bought this prematurely. And I know Fire Covenant uh, is like a $2 card or something, but I don't know. I just didn't want to replace the Fire Covenant, so like for 2 months, I had no Fire Covenant. And in those 2 months, I was in Turbo Naws and Mardu Turbo Naws too. So, um, and it's like Psych Rift. If you have to Psych Rift for 7, if you have to overload it, you're probably having a bad day. But still, that could happen. I've had games where I just had like a very very slow Najeela start against opponents that have too many creatures, where Najeela really couldn't get in. But once the Psych Rift came out, it turned the tide of the game. And then our draw package, we have a Gitaxian Probe, Brainstorm, Adnos, and Adnos for value. This is not an Adnos deck. It's just an Adnos for value, and a Time Twister. Now it's the only wheel in the deck, and I know all wheels do what I'm about to say, but there's nothing quite like just shitting all of your permanents on the board, consequence free, and then just refilling your hand. Also, if I discard something or something gets sent to the graveyard, it's a weird way to try to get it back from the graveyard. And so let's get into the rest of the deck. We have our enchantments. We have a Mystic Remora, Mystic Study, Sylvan Library, Carpet of Flowers, Utopia Sprawl, and Wild Growth. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, Najeela is really concerned with reducing Wooburg. So these auras, these land auras, are really, really great addition. So for a budget alternative, I know there are a couple of like 2-drop and 3-drop land auras. So you could just throw one of these things onto your whatever. You have a Fertile Ground. It's one that makes double green, but you don't need double green. That's not important. So I guess if you're taking my advice and building a budget Najeela alternative with just a bunch of dorks and the Plarg, Augusta, Fabro Elder, then you're going to be heavy on the green. So it's going to be between the dorks and the auras. Our rocks, we have a Lotus Petal, a Jeweled Lotus. This extended foil Jeweled Lotus, believe it or not, is a little out of reach for me. It's probably never going to happen. Mana Crypt, Soul Ring. You got to consider that a lot of these cards were either traded for or purchased when they were like not even close to where they are now. This is years ago or upon initial release. But like when Commander Legends came out, I just really wasn't playing the game. I was just doing other things at the time, and so I kind of missed my opportunity to get that extended foil Jewel Lotus, Chromox, Anamox, Diamond. And then wrapping things up with our lands, we have all 10 fetches. There are no basics in this deck, and no shocks, no utility lands. Just our 10 fetches, our 10 duels. And now I know I'll face the Winota player, and they'll land like a Magus of the Moon, and I'm going to eat my words right. No Ancient Tomb. It's really hard to, I know like a rock and an Ancient Tomb has a chance to get a turn when Najeela out, but this deck is just so color intensive that I just, I've run Najeela for years, and the Ancient Tomb just always hurts. Gemstone Cavern, so Rainbow Lands, Command Tower, Forbidden Orchard, Exotic Orchard. Forbidden Orchard, not a big deal. The plus that I'm going to give to my opponent really, really is not a big deal. But to have access to Woburg is way more important than like the occasional spirit I'll give the weakest opponent. A Mana Confluence. I gotta re-sleeve this. Gemstone Mine, Tarnished Citadel, and a City of Brass. No Reflecting Pool. Still like a trash caca card. Like I'm out here trying to do a turn 1 Najeela. You out here trying to open with a Reflecting Pool. So no Reflecting Pool. It's not a good card. And there you have it. You have Najeela, the Blade Blossom in 2021. Really strong deck. Still a strong commander. Yeah. Thanks so much.